It's time to feel what you've been bottling up. Life in rural America isn't easy. The long hours, the constant pressures, the demands of the land, livestock, and family, it all takes a toll. We're tough and we've got grit, but somewhere along the way, toughness started meaning bottling up emotions and powering through. But here's the truth. That strategy, it's not working and it's poisoning us. Maybe you've noticed and maybe you haven't, but the numbers don't lie. We're breaking down and it's showing up in our bodies, our relationships, and in the rising suicide rates in agriculture. You don't have to carry any of it alone. There's another way. If you're ready to stop being weighed down and start moving forward, my one-on-one good movement guidance is now open. Visit the link in the show notes to learn more and see if one-on-one guidance could be for you.
I'll carry you, you carry me, we'll help each other through it. Come on and see good movement draws good movement.
Welcome to Good Movement Draws Good Movement, the podcast where farmers, ranchers, and rural folks can grow relationally through awareness, understanding, and effective communication. Hey, it's T. I'm your host, and I, along with my guests, will be covering topics related to drawing good movement. Things like self and social awareness, brain science, positive psychology, extending grace, and so much more. We'll share tools that can help you understand why you are the way you are, why others are the way they are, and how you can use that to step out of self-told lies with grace and compassion to draw good movement in conversations, relationships, and life in rural America. Let's go draw good movement. Welcome back to the Good Movement Draws Good Movement podcast. We have Tom back with us today. And last week, I went into more detail in a solo episode about what the Enneagram is and how we can use it in drawing good movement. And today, Tom is going to talk to us about his experience with the Enneagram. So with that, what were your thoughts on the Enneagram when I first started talking about it?
I hated it.
Why did you hate it?
Because I didn't understand any parts of it. Like a lot of other people, like I didn't want to be put in a box, right?
Yeah. Why did it feel like you were in a box?
Because it just felt like you're labeling people and, oh, you're this and you're that. And it's like, okay, I can't do anything about it.
Do you still think you can't do anything about it?
No. I mean, to a point, but now I got a better grasp of what it is and how much it can help.
Yeah. So like now you understand you can't change how you see. You can only change what you do with what you see.
Yes.
Yeah. So at one point you told me, because you would verbally process and I would say things to you using what I knew about the Enneagram and it would annoy you. And at one point you told me, please just stop using the Enneagram on me or don't Enneagram me or something.
Don't Enneagram me. Don't try to handle me.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm glad you remember word for word. Actually, I don't know if I'm glad about that, but it's helpful in this situation.
You should be glad. It's one of the very few things I actually remember.
So at that point, I was like, okay, I'll just stop blatantly using it when we're talking, but I still used it like incognito.
Behind my back.
Incognito, subtly.
Okay.
But obviously, you don't feel the same now as you did then about the Enneagram. So what happened that made you come around to using it and finding value in it?
Probably managing the unit here, having the guys I have work for me. At that time, I had a couple of guys that took things differently. Like I would think them, and then I couldn't communicate effectively. Like everything I said got taken out of line, in my opinion. These are all my opinions, right?
They got taken differently than what you meant them.
Yeah. So if there was something I thought we could do better, I would just say, hey, we need to try to do this. and this is how I think we should do it. And I just changed my approach on how I communicated with those guys. So rather than say, I think this is how we should do it, and this is why I think we should do it, I'd get some pushback, right? Like, I don't want to supervise guys that don't think. Like, I don't want to take that out of people for them to think on
You
their
don't
own.
want to boss people.
I don't want to boss people. I mean, we're grown ass adults and everybody has their own ideas of what's right. And so rather than just tell them what I thought and that, it was better if I asked them questions like, what do you think we should do? This is what I would like to see happen production wise. How do you suggest we get there?
Right.
And that was a huge turnaround. Like, I started that way and then didn't realize that I was using it until my boss started to see it.
I like all of that. But what was the turning point for you from you telling me not to Enneagram you to you accepting it?
I don't really recall.
I do. I was on my way to EMT class and you texted me about how you had listened to
with Cass?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You had listened to the podcast that my friend Cass and I had started, Type It Out with T and Cass, which is strictly Enneagram focused. You just listened to it to be a supportive husband, and you were like, holy shit, I thought you were just pulling my leg. I didn't know there were other people out there like me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Cass was a breath of fresh air. A breath of fresh air. Sorry, Cass.
But after that, you were like gung ho.
Oh, I went all in after that.
Yeah, you actually binge listened to our podcast and found other podcasts to listen to and harped on me to get more episodes of Type It out.
Yes. I needed to hear from more ones, which
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah. You need to hear from more ones.
Yeah.
Well, at one point you wanted to hear from more male ones because all the ones that you were hearing from were female ones.
I still only know female ones. I don't know another male one personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never met Cass, but there's another female one locally, and her and I communicate on the regular. Like, talk me off this ledge, like say something not even inspirational, once in a while inspirational, but say something,
to get you out of your resentment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to what you're saying about how you changed your approach, your management approach, your general manager did notice a change in you, and then he asked you about it, right?
Right. So every year we have annual evaluations, and production numbers were super high. Motivation, morale on the unit was way high. Guys were engaged, guys were involved on our unit, so the ranch is broken up into units, and everybody has 3 or 4 guys, 2 or 3 guys, whatever you have for supervisors. I don't know. Herdsmen, cowboys, whatever. Well, our unit was kind of top of the charts for a couple of years, and that was a huge change, and that was noticed by upper management. And so upper management in my evaluation asked what was going on, and I said, well, I've been going through this Enneagram with you. And so he wanted to learn more about that, and so that's when we started to go down the trail of doing training.
So I visited with him, and at that point I was just starting. I didn't call them good movement trainings then, but essentially that's when I started the good movement trainings. And he was very interested, and then ended up getting me to come and do good movement trainings here with the management team first. And then I think we did 2 units at a time in a training. So you've attended 2 of what are now my half-day good movement trainings. What were your expectations going in? What value did you find? Did you find them valuable?
I can't really answer that because I live with it every day, right? So
You mean you live with me every day?
Yeah. Right.
And I'm always Enneagramming you?
Yes.
Or good movementing you. It's not necessarily Enneagram specific as much anymore since
No,
I've learned more.
no, but at the beginning, like, kind of feels like you're getting handled. You know what I mean? Like, you're handling the relationship or you're guiding it the way you want it to go. And it takes a little while before you understand that that's not maybe what's happening. It's a little deeper than that. But right off, when you don't know what's going on, you're like, what the hell?
To be fair, I was probably a little too excited about it just because when I learned it and the more that I learned about it, it just made so much sense to me. And so I probably I came on too strong. But I remember when we wrapped up a couple of, I don't remember if it was the management team or the one that our unit participated in, but you said you learned something new in both trainings, even though you had lived here with me talking about it for a few years prior to that.
Yeah, because I didn't know any of the other types, right? Like, we took a guess at what the guys were on this unit,
which we held loosely with curiosity until we confirmed with them.
Yeah, but I didn't know what the other numbers were because I never had to venture down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So you would say the value is in not just knowing your own number, but knowing the other types, not necessarily knowing people of other types, but just knowing the characteristics and the motivations of the other types.
Yeah. If you're a manager or a supervisor of any sort, that's highly valuable because, like I said in the last episode, different types process things differently. And if you come off too strong, you either don't care or you're an ass, right? Or you're a jerk or whatever you want to say. Like, you don't keep things motivated. You don't keep things productive. Like, morale goes down, production goes down, guys' motivation goes down. And those are big ticket items. Like, mental health, I thought was a joke 2 or 3 years ago. And now it's a huge issue.
Right. And it all ties together.
Absolutely.
Like, our motivations and the way that we see the world and perceive things has a big effect on our mental health.
Yes.
And
2 years ago, I was in a very dark place.
Yeah, you are a lot lighter now.
Why had I not done this a couple years ago?
The podcast?
Yeah, none of it.
I know.
Didn't want to be involved.
I know. Because you wanted me to stop Enneagramming you and handling you.
Yeah.
But also something that you said after the trainings just made me feel really good and like touched on, I don't know, it hit a special spot for my Enneagram type 9 and feeling like my presence doesn't matter was like, this is what you were meant to do, babe. And like, I still hold on to that when I get discouraged about what I'm trying to do in the world with good movement and all of that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I stand behind that.
I know you just told me the other day again in different words, you support me 150%.
Yeah.
In what I'm trying to do. So can you talk a little bit about why you think it might be important for people, maybe not necessarily to have a good movement training, but at least to explore this idea of self-awareness and how they can affect other people?
Yeah, so maybe I can try. There's 20 some guys on the ranch. And I mean, some of those guys, things are changing. The younger generation is different than my generation. My generation's different than the generation above me. And those generations, it's weird to see how different information or different ways of communication gets to them. As the older generation, they didn't beat around the bush. I mean, they're hardcore, old-time cowboy type guys. And so when we were first starting to think about doing the training, I was like, oh, shucks. Like, there's some guys that are not going to respond well to this at all. And I was shocked because the older generation actually was a generation that's like reaching out to you after those trainings to figure out how they communicate to get the same results that other people were getting. I was shocked to see that. And that kind of inspired me to keep utilizing it and going further. What was the rest of that?
What's the value in pursuing more self-awareness or becoming more self-aware? Whether you have me come do a good movement training or not, what's the value in self-awareness?
Oh, just your personal mental status, where you're at mentally. So I'm a 1, and what typically tended to motivate me was everything was a mess. Everything was a wreck.
Well, your motivation is perfection. And so everything was a mess.
Because nothing's perfect.
Right.
And that I just couldn't accept that. Still have a hard time at times accepting that. And I just couldn't get past it. And this place will humble you. When you're alone doing what we do with what we have to do, the size, the sheer volume, you can get as mad as you want. You can go move a set of cows, and if they don't want to move and you didn't do it right or didn't approach it right, I don't care what you do. They don't care what you do, because it's all on you, is how I perceived it.
Right.
So I was pissed off. I mean, I'd come home, punch the bag for hours. I mean, sore. I'd chop wood. I was just mad. And as you age, your body starts to say, yeah, that's fine and well, but you can't keep doing that, because my heart rate was going up. My blood pressure was going up. Everything was.
Well, you actually wore a heart monitor and were in the ER for a couple of heart episodes, and they, did tests and all that. And it's like, your heart's fine. It's stress.
Yeah.
And so you had to become aware of that. And working with animals will help you recognize when your energy is not in the right place, because,
right,
like you say, the cows won't move, or you can't catch the horse, or your dog doesn't come to you. Like, if things like that are happening for you, maybe ask yourself an honest question about where your mind is.
Yeah, you can't lie to critters.
Yeah.
And they won't lie back.
Right. So I want to go back to what you said about the generations. So part of my way of thinking about this is that a lot of those generational communication gaps could be slimmed down or eliminated completely if we understood that we don't all see the world the same way. And for me, the Enneagram expedites that process of understanding and then being able to extend grace. Like I said, that's for me. Is that kind of how you view it too?
Yeah, maybe not in those words, but yeah, it just gives you a common ground to come back to. Like I said on the last one, everybody processes things differently, but you have to be honest and you got to be respectful. So now I'm able to, I think I have the skill set, or a better skill set, that I'm continuing to develop on how I be honest, but yet respectful of those guys, whether it's their feelings, their perceptions, their ideas, their thoughts, etc. I think mental health is a huge deal, especially in production agriculture, because people are so worried about getting decent market value for their product, getting all the things done. Mental health in ag settings is a huge deal, whether you're a farmer, rancher.
It's a huge deal for society in general, but I think those of us in agriculture are up against things so far out of our control, and we've been raised to, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and toughen up and keep going day in and day out. And so that makes it harder for us to accept that we need help with our mental health and actually do the work, maybe, because
Absolutely.
we think we can just power on through. But I had a good movement coaching client, my one-on-one service, and she said to me one day, "This is like therapy." And I said, "Well, I'm not a therapist." And she said, "I know that, but in order to do the work that you do in therapy, you have to be self-aware, and the Enneagram expedites self-awareness."
Yes. it makes you go a lot of uncomfortable places that you have to be in a growth mindset to go there, because not everybody's going there. Like, I've been to the Ranching for Profits, and I've seen those generational companies, and it's family. And from the outside looking in, it's like, are you kidding me? You have all this and you can't get along? But you stop and think about the things that motivate you and the things that you care about. Just because you care about them doesn't mean the next generation or your supervisor gives a damn about them.
Or they might care about them, but they've got different ideas about how to go about them.
Yeah, and the communication between those two lines is no good. It's not that they don't love each other, or care about each other. It's that they can't communicate effectively to make good management decisions.
So I feel like this is a loaded question. After having attended 2 good movement trainings, how many stars out of 5 would you give it?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I'd give it all the stars.
All the stars.
All the stars.
You heard it here, folks. All the stars.
Well, I said in the first episode, this is the biggest change I've had since low stress stockmanship in like 03, 04.
Yeah. Now you're taking, well, it's the same. It's built on the same foundation, self-awareness.
That's your perception.
No, it is. You have to be self-aware to handle cattle.
Yeah, but you don't have to handle people. Like, I couldn't make that connection. Like, everybody I talk to talks about the horses and the cows. They're all the same thing. No, they're not.
They're not the same thing. The foundation is the same, but you have to communicate with each species how they want to be communicated with. And with humans, it's harder because animals do not have human emotions, or they don't experience emotions in the same way that humans do. So that adds a layer of complexity. And also another layer of complexity between the animals and the humans is, like you said, animals don't lie. They can't lie. Humans can. Animals can't hide anything from you. Humans can. And so I think that's where having the Enneagram and sort of a guide to show you different motivations and different ways of seeing the world can be extremely helpful in communicating with your coworkers, your family, your peers, people on the internet.
Yeah, I couldn't handle that. I'm not there yet.
One of the biggest things that has helped me being on the internet and social media was learning that type 9s, like I am, can see multiple sides to situations, and that not everyone has that ability. That helped me extend a lot of grace to a lot of people, because I always thought everyone could see multiple sides and just chose not to. Turns out that's not the case. And so that's helped me out a lot. With that, I think we're going to wrap it up. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, not that I can think of.
If you or someone you know might be interested in either good movement coaching one-on-one with me, or having me come and put on a good movement training, you can email me at Terryn, TERRYN, at faithfamilyandbeef.com. They can DM me on Instagram at Terryn, TERRYN.Dreeling, D as in David, RIELING, or visit my website for more information. You know what? All of that stuff is linked in the show notes. So don't worry about going back and writing that all down. Just click the links in the show notes. Until next time, draw good movement. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful for you. If you found value in this episode, I'd love for you to share with others who might also benefit from tuning in. Share by word of mouth, send it in a text, take a screenshot and post it on social media, or share however you prefer. And if you haven't already, hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, draw good movement.